Okay, continuing with the disassembly of this R69S motor. The next thing we want to remove are the timing gears. We'll start by pulling the camshaft. It's held on by 4 flathead screws, 1, 2, and if you rotate it, 3, 4. You can see the 4 screws that hold it. So I'm using an impact driver to get these out. There's the first one. And then just rotate it so you can get the other 2 out. Of course, the last one's going to give you a hard time, but you'll get it. Okay, that last screw came out finally. You just want to make sure that your screwdriver bit fits tightly into those flathead screws, and then they'll usually come out without too much trouble. Next thing we're going to do is pull the camshaft, and I'm going to use the tool. This time we're using the, what do they call this? The presser bolt? Yes, I think they call this the presser bolt. Anyway, it threads into the front of the cam, and we put these 2 M6x60 bolts into the holes where we just took out those screws, and it's going to press against those to pull the camshaft. So once we've got those in, we just thread the tool onto the end of the cam like this. And then as we tighten this nut, it will pull the camshaft. I've just temporarily got that installed because before pulling the cam, what you want to do is heat the back of the case. This is the bearing pocket for the bearing of the rear bearing of the camshaft. So you want to get this really nice and hot here, so as you pull the camshaft out, hopefully that cam bearing will come along with it instead of being left behind in the case. So that's what I'm going to do next, is heat the case, especially that area of the bearing pocket, really warm before we go to pull the cam. Okay, so once that is nice and hot, and And we will try to pull the camshaft out. We just tighten the nut as we hold the tool to extract the cam. And there it's come loose. So then I'm just going to remove the tool and these bolts that we used. And remove the cam. And this is the rear bearing that we wanted to get out with the cam, and it did come out, so that's good. It really takes a lot of heat. I had that bearing pocket heated to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And this case, the case is big, and aluminums are great conductors, so it takes a lot of time to heat up the case in that pocket. If that bearing is left behind in the case, then you'll have to use a tool to pull it out, because it's a blind bearing. You can't get to it really. But there's the camshaft. Alright, the next thing we're going to remove is this oil pump gear. And it's just held on by one nut. And it has a lock washer on it. So you'll want to bend that lock washer down. Like that. And then it's a 14mm nut. And the important thing to remember about this is that it is a reverse thread. So to loosen it, you're going to want to turn it clockwise. So reverse thread, and you can just bump it and it will come off. There's the nut and this locking washer. Then the actual timing, the actual oil pump gear is just a taper fit, and it sometimes will just come off with some wiggling, if not some taps around the edge. Will sometimes work it loose, but not always. Since it's aluminum, we can also put a little heat on it. And if it's being stubborn, you might want to get behind it with something. There it goes. Careful prying on it, because it is soft aluminum and you don't want to damage the gears or anything. That's the oil pump gear. Can give the oil pump a spin and see how it feels. Sounds good. Next thing we're going to be removing is the crankshaft timing gear and its bearing. Next thing we're going to remove the crank timing gear and its bearing. Again, using the tool with the puller bolt. These two special cutaway bolts fit behind the timing gear and through the tool like this, and you use that to pull the gear. So let me get these positioned and the nuts on there. Okay. And then as you tighten down the bolt, it will pull the gear and the bearing out. So I'm just going to hold on to the tool with one wrench, tighten it down. Don't be surprised if it takes a considerable amount of force to get this to move. It's on there quite tight. Now that it's started, I'll probably just zip it off with the impact. And that makes quick work of it. There's the timing gear and its bearing.